Here are 100 things that you can buy from garage sales and thrift stores and sell on eBay for big money, big profit. Now, even if you are a professional, you definitely want to watch this video until the end, because even if you just find one new item you can sell, that could be thousands of dollars that you can make. If you don't watch to the end, that could be thousands of dollars that you're losing by passing up on these good items that are at garage sales, thrift stores, that you could again be selling for big money online. Number one. So if you don't know about these already, DVD VCR combos and VHS players both sell really well on eBay. I don't know why. But if we pull up eBay, we'll take a look, and 150 bucks. I see these at garage sales all the time. 10 bucks, maybe 20 at the most, sometimes $1 for something that sells for over 100. They're not all worth money, and they can be a little tricky because sometimes they don't work, but definitely check these out. Some good brands: Sony, Samsung, Toshiba, Panasonic. And same thing with VHS players, even if it's just VHS. Some of these will sell for nothing crazy, but like 40, 50 bucks. And people think these are worthless, so you can typically get them from a garage sale for just a few bucks. The best brands for VHS typically are JVC, those are good, and then again, Sony and Panasonic. On number three, you should know this, but if not, you gotta check out any kind of graphing calculator, like the one from high school. Those, even though they're so old, still sell for like 40, 50 bucks, and you can find them at garage sales, 5, 10 bucks, sometimes even $1. And they sell all day. I promise you, if you list these at 50 bucks, they're gone tomorrow. Let's go on to number four. iPods, super simple, but specifically the iPod Classic. You can still find the Shuffle and the Nano. Some of these still sell decently well, but the Classic maintains the best value. Number five, camera lenses. You need to know about these. If you see these, you don't need to know too much. Just look them up. They're often worth a decent amount of money. Nikon, Canon, and then Leica's a more expensive brand are just some, but look out for camera lenses. If you see them, even if it's on the camera body itself, if it's a camera that comes with the lens, often the lens itself is worth more than the camera. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes these are worth 40, 50, sometimes hundreds. So if you see a camera lens, even if they're off asking like 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks, look into it, look it up. Number six is TV remotes. Now, there's two different kinds of TV remotes here. One is smart TV remotes, and they'll look kind of fancy. They'll be like Logitech style remotes. We'll see if we can find one here. But number two is just normal TV remotes. People lose their TV remotes, I don't know, and they need to buy new ones. And it works with stereo remotes too, radio remotes, any kind of remote. Start looking them up, and you'll learn some of them are worth decent money. And people usually ask 25 cents, $1. Look at this one, Panasonic, I don't even know what this is. Panasonic remote, 26 bucks. Get you some money. 7, vintage computers. You probably already know this, but vintage computers can be worth a lot of money. If you see, especially any kind of old Apple computers or electronics at a yard sale, definitely check them out. Another good old computer brand is Commodore. And just so you have an idea of what these look like, sometimes they're in boxes, and sometimes they look like just a keyboard, but they're actually a whole computer all in one. So if you see anything like this at a yard sale, just keep in mind, oh, that could be worth 100 bucks. Number 8 is handset phones. These are the ones that maybe your grandparents have in their home, and you call them and they don't have a cell phone, so you call their landline. These actually sell pretty well for 40, 50, 60 bucks, and people don't know that. So one, people at garage sales will sell them for 2, 3, 4, 5 bucks. They'll sell them cheap. And then 2, other resellers don't know they're worth money. So you can get to a garage sale late and they'll still be there. And you can buy them, scoop them up, and resell them. Here is an example of what these look like. Some good brands to look out for are Uniden, Panasonic, and then VTech. Number 9, film cameras, especially older film cameras, Nikon, Canon, Minolta, Olympus. Check these out. Some of these are 100, 200 bucks. And again, people don't know they're worth money. They think it's old technology. You can find them for 1, 2, a few bucks, not that much. Olympus seems to do really well. Some of these are 100, 400 bucks. I don't know what that one is. Again, if you see a film camera at a garage sale or a thrift store, or if you have one at home, just look it up. See what it sells for, look at sold listings on eBay. You could make some really good money. 10, this is very surprising. I thought these were worthless, but these little TVs, remember these, actually they're big TVs. Before flat screen TVs, they had CRT TVs, or these big bulky TVs. And the big ones are worthless, but the small ones actually hold some value. One is called Sony Trinitron. Small ones can be worth $100, $200, $300, and they sell all day. Check this out. I think it's people that play video games that want them, but specifically the small ones, so 13-inch, sometimes 20-inch, 13-inch is best. And it's not just the Sony Trinitrons, there's also other brands, specifically ones that have a VHS slot. I don't know if you've ever seen like a TV and then underneath it has this little slot where you can insert one of those big black movies. Those are worth about $100 too. Check this out, $180, Panasonic. A good rule for TVs or VHS players that we talked about earlier or anything, look for ones that have the remote. Remote control adds value to TVs, to VCR players, to everything. 12, you probably already know this, KitchenAid mixers and their attachments, like the little things that spin and make food, these are worth money. People like them, they're high quality, they sell all day, every day. If you can get these for 10, 20, even $30, it's probably worth it. 13, drills, and even if you just find a drill battery, these can be worth good money. Check this out. Even a drill without the battery, from a good brand like Milwaukee or Ryobi or DeWalt, 40, 50, 60 bucks. And then you can even sell, if you find just a battery, 20, 30 bucks. So if you see anything like this for less than $10, definitely think about picking it up. 14, if you find these old handheld Garmins, not the ones in your car, but these ones that you would use on like a hiking trip, you should definitely look into these. Even the really old ones from like 20, 30 years ago can be worth 50, 100 bucks. The newer ones, even more, 200, 300 bucks sometimes. Car stereos, be careful with these because I know people steal these, but if you find an old car stereo, specifically one for a car, not like a third-party one. Third-party ones can be worth money too, but if you find one for like an old Ford or an old Toyota, and it's for a few bucks, it's probably worth some money because there might be someone out there that has that car that needs a new stereo. Number 16 and 17 are both old alarm clocks. One are these ones that have these flip numbers. So instead of like a digital clock where the numbers are light up, these are physical little things that flip whenever the time changes. If you find one of these, it's probably only going to be a few bucks because it's an old alarm clock. People don't think that means value most of the time, but people on eBay will tell you, hey, that's 50, maybe even 60, 70 bucks. And then if you find any old Sony Dream Machine alarm clocks, these can be worth good money too. 47 bucks, 69 bucks. I don't know why, 365 bucks. If you see an old Sony Dream Machine, again, it's probably going to be just a few bucks because it's an old alarm clock. Think that could be some money. Look it up. Number 18, 19, and 20, pay attention here. I've seen people, professionals, pass this up in their YouTube videos, and I'm like, that's hundreds of dollars you just passed up on. Anything that's used for making music, think about something you would see in a studio, like a music producing studio, typically is worth some good money. So if you can find them for 10, 20, 30 bucks, it's probably a good flip. One example is what's called a drum machine. It has little buttons you press and it plays different drums. Here is an example of what that looks like, but I mean, check this out. So 500, 200, some of these are crazy, thousands of dollars. Coming down here, there's something called a synth that looks like a piano, right? And it pretty much is a piano, but it plays all these different noises. And you'll probably see ones that have knobs or buttons, or if you just see any kind of piano that looks like it's a little more than a typical keyboard, like it has a little more going on, look it up. It could be a synth, it could be worth some money. Check it out. And then there's something called a mixer, which is where you mix, right? Dials, knobs. If you see one of these, some of them aren't worth a ton, but some of them can be worth hundreds of dollars. So definitely check them out. 21 and 22, boom boxes. Now there's two different boom boxes we need to talk about, but do not pass these up. One is Sony. Sony makes these big, not that big, but pretty big, like CD, cassette tape kind of boom boxes. And I see them all the time, and they're typically worth 30, 40, maybe 50 bucks. Now, even better, think about someone from the 80s riding like the New York subway, right? And they carried this big boombox on their shoulder. Those ones are big money. $100, $200, $300. If you can find one of those, again, probably like $20, $30 at a yard sale, maybe even less, pick it up. It's probably worth some good money. Just look it up first to verify. Number 23 and 24 are things that look like printers, but they aren't. We see printers all the time at thrift stores and garage sales, and most of them are not worth anything. But some of them are actually what are called photo scanners or thermal printers, and these are worth money. Photo scanners scan photos or documents, and for whatever reason, they sell for $200. I just sold one for like $120. A good brand to look out for is Epson. Thermal printers are a little different. These brands are Zebra or Brother. They're worth like $50 to $100 easy. So definitely be on the lookout for these. Now 25 and 26 is radios. Not just radios for music, but radios for communicating. CB radios like truckers use can be worth decent money. Cobra, Uniden, Galaxy, a few other brands too can be worth money. So if you see these, just look them up, especially if they're $10 or less. Now what can be worth even more money are what are called ham radios. These look a little different. They have like this console with knobs. Let me show you some pictures just to give you an idea. And then some of them look like a walkie-talkie, right? And these can sell for hundreds of dollars easy. So if you see anything that looks like a fancy walkie-talkie or something with like weird knobs at a garage sale or a thrift store that you don't really know what it is, look it up. It could be worth some good money. Now, you need to know video games. Video games can make you so much money. They sell so quick, like list them, a minute later, sold. I'm serious. And so I'm gonna do a quick crash course. If you don't know anything about video games, this will only take a few minutes of your time, and I promise it'll add so much value to you making money in the future. So just a quick crash course into what things are worth money. Typically Nintendo, most things in Nintendo are worth money. Some basics here at the bottom to look out for. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon. Nintendo has cartridge-based games, and then they have disc-based games. The cartridge-based games are typically worth some of the most money. This is Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, NES. If you see any cart games like this, think that's probably worth some money. That includes the handheld stuff too, DS and Game Boy games. Now, the main issue with DS and Game Boy games is that there are a lot of fakes out there, especially for games like Pokemon, so you gotta be a little careful with those. GameCube games, another great thing to find, and GameCube games are almost always valuable too. Let me just show you some examples of what these games can sell for. And again, the same basic rules apply. Look for titles like Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, or anything that you don't really recognize. Another 2 golden rules of video games is sports are usually not worth anything, unless they're 2025, 2026, like brand new sports games. And 2 is if it's in the box or the case, it's worth more, almost always. Now, for Nintendo Wii, there are 2 things that you'll probably see often that are worth good money, but a lot of people don't know it. One is Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. Sports Resort is $40, $50. Wii Sports is probably like a $20, $30, maybe even $40 game at some points. And literally everyone has it, so it's out there, you can go find it. And then another thing to look for are Wii Guitar Hero controllers. You probably see Guitar Hero controllers all the time. If you see ones that have a little place to put the Wii controller, it's like this little rectangle. Let me show you right here, little rectangle. It's probably worth 30, 40, 50 bucks, so you might want to pick it up. Some consoles, we talked about the games, right? Usually Nintendo consoles are worth picking up, especially if you can get them for 10, 20, maybe even 30 bucks. And that includes the old stuff like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and 64 GameCube, and Game Boy and DS. Now, Wii systems are not worth a whole lot, so I personally try and pass on them unless they're like 5, 10 bucks. But the old stuff, I almost always pick up, especially if it's 20 bucks or less. Now, keep going with video games. PlayStation. Very basic rule about PlayStation is if you see anything that looks like a horror game, like scary, or anime is like the Japanese, I'll show you some pictures. That stuff is usually worth money, whether it's on the PlayStation 1, 2, or the 3. So if you're looking through a bunch of PlayStation games, you don't know what's worth money, usually horror stuff, like here's Resident Evil, or anything anime looking, usually is worth money. Third thing that's worth money is specifically PlayStation 3 consoles that are backwards compatible. Don't worry too much about this, but if you see this old style PlayStation 3, just check if it has this little lid on the left-hand side that you can flip up where you put in a memory card. That usually means that it's backwards compatible, which means it's worth 200, 300 bucks. Let's finish up video games real quick with Sega. Sega are other cartridge games. They have these little things. These aren't worth as much as Nintendo, but they're still worth looking into if you find them. And then Dreamcast is typically worth a little bit more than Genesis. Not a ton, but they're these disc games, usually white cases, sometimes black cases. If you see these, look them up. They could be worth decent money too, especially if it's only a few bucks each. Let's talk about toys, right? I think everyone already knows that Legos are worth money, but specifically Lego sets, brand new or complete, brand new is best so you know it's complete, are worth money. And then Lego minifigures. Minifigures are those little people. That's what's worth the most money. If you just had a big bin of Legos that are not really doing anything, like just a big mix, that's worth some money, but not as much as Lego sets or Lego minifigures. So if you've had a big bin of Legos at a garage sale that they want a lot of money for, maybe just take the little people out. That's what's worth the most money. 42 and 43, trains. Now, one is Thomas the Tank Engine trains. Kind of like Legos, the tracks aren't worth a ton of money. They're worth something, but the main two things that are worth money are the trains themselves with the faces and any kind of structure. It's like a building, ramp or something, anything that's a little different. So if you look through these, the things that sell for money are actually the trains. Building, train. Some of these are crazy too, like 130 bucks for just one train. Similar to that, model trains. Model trains are kind of like Thomas trains, but for people a little older. If you see this at a yard sale, especially if it says like Lionel or anything like this in these little boxes, just look them up, take a picture of them, look them up. They're usually worth some decent money, specifically the trains and specifically any kind of little structures that might go along with them. Now 44, you probably see these all the time, Hot Wheels cars. Most of them are honestly not worth that much money. One thing that you can look for with Hot Wheels though is the year. If you see any from the 60s or the 70s, typically worth some good money. Now the easiest way to look for the year, just flip the cars over. It says it on the bottom. And another thing to consider with Hot Wheels is the condition is very important for these old cars. So if it's beat up, probably not worth that much. But if it's in good shape, it can be worth hundreds of dollars. So if you see Hot Wheels at a garage sale, just look at the date. That's the main thing. You want to look for 60s, maybe 70s, 60s is best. 45, 46, and 47, you need to know at least a little bit about these action figures. Wrestling figures have been super hot recently. Ones from the 80s and 90s, they just look like wrestlers. So if you see any kind of old wrestling looking toys, just little things at a garage sale, just think, hey, these are probably worth some money, especially if they look a little older. Transformers, if you see any kind of transformer like are cars that turn into people, just think, hey, that might be worth some money. I should probably look that up. Similar, this is a little less common, but you might see this sometimes. It's called G.I. Joe. And if you see this anytime at a garage sale, whether it's new or old, especially if it's new in the pack, think, hey, that's probably worth some money. If it's only a few bucks, I should probably pick it up. Either way, I should definitely look it up just to see what's going on. Okay, clothing. Clothing is something I looked over for so long, I just didn't even learn about it. And because of that, I lost literally thousands, maybe tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars because I didn't know. I'm sure I found so much good stuff, walked past so much good stuff, and I just didn't buy it because I did not educate myself. So take a moment to learn some of the basics with me. One is vintage clothing. Now, some of the best selling vintage clothing that you can find is one, wrestling shirts, specifically from the 80s and 90s. And these stand out. They'll have a lot of crazy stuff going on. So if you see anything like this, WWE, any kind of wrestling stuff like this at a yard sale, typically these shirts, $1 or $2, maybe even like 50 cents, and they could be 50, 60, 70 bucks, easy. Similar to that is anything racing related. That's usually NASCAR, that's usually Indy, but anything racing related, motocross even, think, hey, that's probably worth some money. And again, it's the ones that have a lot going on them. Now again, shirts with a lot going on in them, Harley Davidson shirts, especially the vintage ones, are worth a ton of money. They sell really easily. Just check these out. 50, some of these are 300, 400, 500, easy money. If you see these at a yard sale, definitely think I should probably pick those up. Now, band shirts. Bands are hard because there's so many different bands out there. Let me just give you a few things to look for so you know these things I can probably make some money on. One is anything metal, like metal music, and some bands to look out for: Korn, Metallica, Slipknot, Def Leppard, Tool. But if you don't want to remember those names, just think, hey, this is a scary looking band shirt, probably worth some money, especially if it looks older. And then look out for Grateful Dead clothing, especially older Grateful Dead clothing. This usually looks like hippie clothing, and it has either a bear walking like this on it, or it has a skull like this. I'll show you some photos right now just so you have an idea. Skull, skeleton, Grateful Dead. Okay, vintage hats. I see YouTubers pick these up all the time and make huge money off of these. There are a few old vintage brands to look out for that typically have higher value. Sports Specialties, Local Athletic, Starter, and Drew Pearson. There's some other brands as well, but let me just show you what these typically go for. Now, I looked at the more expensive ones, but some of these go for over $100 easy, and found these at a yard sale. These are $1, $2 a lot of the time, maybe even a quarter. Now, a few other hats to look out for are vintage Ralph Lauren hats. Anything with an old bear or a polo or polo sport. Just look out for these, $100, $50, and again, you'll probably get these for a few bucks at a yard sale. And then vintage Nike hats. These are a little harder to tell, but just look out for anything Nike related on a hat that looks a little older, not super modern. These old running hats also sell pretty well. 40, 50, some are crazy prices. Now, shoes. There are a few different kinds of shoes you can look out for. One is any kind of vintage Nikes, specifically ones that say made in Korea. If you look on the inside, it should also say what year it's made. So 80s, 90s, they can go for 50, 100, $200 sometimes. Some other shoes to look out for, Jordans. These typically sell pretty well, 50 to $100. If you ever get these, just look a little closely, see if they look off or anything, because they do have fakes. And then everyone knows Hokas, right? These are hot. If you find these for like $5, $10 at a yard sale or thrift store, and they're in decent shape, definitely pick these up. Just make sure they're a good size. Good size, I'll put it on the screen, means that it's a common size. But here's one thing that is consistently worth money that you can find, and it's only a few bucks typically. They're called Disney Spirit jerseys. Here is what they look like. They're these big long sleeve t-shirts with big words on the back. Anything Disney related. It can be Disney, it could be like cars, it could be any kind of Disney related shirts. They typically sell for 20, 30, 40, sometimes even 50. This one's 75. Look out for these, pick them up. All right, number 60 and number 61, Casio watches. Why Casio? Well, one, they're very common. You can typically find them at yard sales, and they're usually only $1 or $2. And two, they have a low chance of being faked. If you find a Rolex, good chance it's not real. But Casio, who the heck's gonna fake a Casio watch? And even better, these typically sell for decent money. Like some of these watches, Casio G-Shock, 20, 30, $40. And again, they're small, easy to ship. And if you can pick them up for a few bucks, that's a good flip right there. Now, if you go to like an estate store or something, you'll probably find some old perfume. Sometimes it's even half empty, looks kind of sus, but still look it up, especially if it's a brand that you recognize. Some brands to get in your head: Coco, Chanel, Burberry, Ralph Lauren. If you see any of these, they look like old, partially filled, and you can get them for a few bucks, it might be a good find. Here's an example of what some of these sell for: 30, 40, $50. Look at this, half filled. 62, 63, and 64. Real quick, just some other brands to look out for that typically sell pretty well. One is Carhartt. Jackets and pants from Carhartt, new or vintage, typically do pretty well. Here's an example of what this looks like. Pants, 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 jacket. If you see Carhartt, it's a hot brand right now. Definitely think about picking that up, especially if it's only a few bucks. Now, everyone knows workout apparel like Lululemon, Viore, Aloe. That typically sells pretty well too. Be careful here, some of these only sell for 10 to 20 bucks. So if you get these, try and get them for $5 or less per piece. You probably already know this too, but Patagonia jackets, it's getting warmer, so these probably will be in less demand, but these typically sell for 20, 30, 40 bucks easy. 65 and 66, pay attention here because people pass these up all the time and there's a lot of money to be made. VHS tapes, most of these worthless, right? Now, two different ones that are not worthless that you should be like, hey, money. One is horror. Anything that looks scary or like kind of cheesy scary, VHS tapes, these can sell for some money. Let me show you. Coolest thing about VHS tapes is one, no one really looks at them at garage sales, and two, sometimes they're 25 cents, 50 cents, at most $1 each. Anything that looks like this, anything kind of scary on VHS, think, hey, that might be worth some money. Now, the second kind of VHS tape you want to look out for is anything sealed, anything brand new. Again, they'll probably only ask $1 or $2 at the most, maybe even 25 cents. And it could be worth $50, $60, $90, $100. Just think, if you see a sealed or a horror VHS, think, let me look that up. That could be worth some money. Now, 67, 68, 69, 70. Let's talk about books, right? Again, books are another category that a lot of people pass up on because most books are worthless, right? And it's easy to overlook these. And that's a good thing for you because that means other people are overlooking them. So you can get them yourself. Now, a lot of you probably already know textbooks can be worth money, but if you don't know that, think if you see a big textbook, that could be 50, 100 bucks easy. And sometimes you can pick it up for $5 or less. So textbooks, just look them up. There's so many, I can't tell you exactly which ones are worth how much. Now, book sets, specifically novel book sets like Harry Potter, Stephen King, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. If you can find a big set of the same series for a book and you can get it cheap, like if you get a bunch of Harry Potter books, $1 each, usually a good idea to pick it up, especially if they're in good shape. Let me just give you an idea of what these sell for. These are first edition, so that changes things, but $120 for 7 books, just because they were in a set and they're first edition. Now, another thing to consider here is book sets that are for a niche subject. And this can be anything. If you see a bunch of books that are all kind of similar at a yard sale, especially if they're cheap, think, hey, that could be worth some money. Here's an example that I stumbled upon at a yard sale about 2 years ago, was these books called Foxfire. I didn't know what these were, but I was like, hey, books together can be worth some money. Looked them up, got them for I think $5 for like 5 books, and look, 75, 150. Look out for novel book sets and for niche book sets. Now, the third kind of book set is called manga. This is like kind of like anime looking books. And if you see a big set like these, especially for an affordable price, look it up. It could be worth some good money. These sell all day, every day. Check this out. $270, $115, big money for these books. And especially if you can get them for like $1 a piece or less, you could be making some money quick. 71, 72, and 73. Let's talk about music, right? This is another category that often gets passed up by a lot of resellers because they just don't know it that well. So let me just give you a few basics that you can put in your head to look out for the next time you're out at garage sales or thrift stores. CDs, one basic thing to look out for that sells consistently for a lot of money, Grateful Dead CDs. We talked about this earlier with shirts. If you don't know what the Grateful Dead is, figure it out. They are worth money for pretty much any category. And again, it's that skull or a bear and consistently 30, 40, 50 bucks for a CD. CDs are like $1, $2 at the most typically. Now, cassettes, right? Cassettes are another thing that even more people pass up because who the heck wants cassettes? One is if you find new blank cassette tapes at a yard sale, and I actually found these pretty often at garage sales and thrift stores, these can be worth some money. Check this out. 20 of these, 60 bucks. Nothing crazy, but if you buy a box of these for, let's say $5, that could be some good money right there. Another one is metal. Metal is a category of music that sells well in every area. Clothing, cassette tapes, I don't know why. But check this out, Metallica, Judas Priest, these are some examples. Any kind of cassette tape you see that has a scary looking art cover, think, hey, is that some money right there? It probably is. And these consistently sell for like 50 bucks, 76 bucks, 30 bucks, 74, you probably already know this, but if you don't, you need to know this. Printer ink, even if it's expired, can be worth a lot of money and you can get it for a few bucks at some garage sales and some thrift stores. Keep an eye out for printer ink. Even if it's old, even if it's expired, try and get it new in the box, but that's the only thing. And you want genuine printer ink. Do not get off-brand printer ink. That doesn't sell very well, but if you find HP, Canon, whatever, like name brand printer ink, that is what sells, even if it's expired. 75 and 76, 2 different kinds of vacuums that you should look out for. I find these sometimes for free, $5, super cheap, and you can flip them pretty quickly for good money, either on eBay or on Facebook Marketplace. Shark is one good brand. Check this out. Shark is typically one that you want to find a smaller version of. People like these small, portable. I like that too. I'd rather have a small one than a big clunky one. And these consistently sell like 40, 50, 80 bucks. And then I'm sure you've heard of Dyson, right? Dyson anything, honestly, I think that's some money. Especially if you can get one of these for 10, 20 bucks. Think, hey, that might be worth it for Dyson. Shark, try and get $10 or less. Dyson, I think up to 20 is worth it, unless it's an older model. 77. If you don't know about these, you should know now because I see them pretty often and they consistently sell very quick and for a decent amount of money. They're called Starbucks Been There series mugs, and they're pretty much these fancy little mugs. I'm sure you've seen them in the stores that have a city, a state. People love them because, hey, that's my city, that's my state, and people, I guess, still like Starbucks. I don't know. But check this out. 27, 80, 40, 30, and these are coffee mugs. People sell coffee mugs for $1, $2 at garage sales. If you see one that looks like this, think, hey, that's probably some money. Let me grab that. 78, if you haven't heard of these, you need to put this in your mind. Old cast iron pans. Now what is that? It's these big, thick metal pans. Let me show you what they look like. One good brand to look out for that consistently sells for 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 bucks is called Griswold. Another good brand to look out for is called Lodge, but Griswold, for me, is the best. 79 car carpet mats. Carpet mats for your car, pretty simple, right? But if you find a bunch of these for a specific kind of car, like four carpet mats for a Honda, or 2 carpet mats for an Audi, or anything like that, it's probably worth 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. Check this out. Audi, 90 bucks. Kia, 25 bucks. And these are all just basic car brands. Subaru Impreza. Wait, I don't know why these are so expensive. 322, what? Sink faucets, new in the box, or any kind of like new in the box kitchen stuff. Think, hey, that could be worth some decent money. The best brand to look out for is called Moen. They make a ton of stuff, so you're probably going to see them eventually. Moen sells for money every day. 200, 100, easy money. 81 Disney snow globe. If you see one of these, look it up. Think that could be worth 40, 50, 100 bucks. If you can pick it up for $10 or less, you could be making some good money right there. 82 vintage hotel keys. I don't see these too often, but when I do, I think that's some money. These are the physical keys, and they usually have like a little lanyard or something on them that say whatever hotel they are. These sell typically 10, 20, sometimes 30 bucks each, and sometimes less, so look them up. 83, 84, holiday stuff can be worth a lot of money. A lot of it worthless, right? But if you can find these two things, you could be making some good money. One are called blow molds. They're these big, lightweight plastic. Let me just show you what these are. They can sell for like 50 to 100 bucks sometimes. Check it out, this little penguin, Jesus, this little chick, I don't know. Now, holiday continued is anything vintage Halloween. Again, with that horror, metal, like all this scary stuff has value. I don't know why. Vintage Halloween stuff can be worth decent money, whether it is like this old pumpkin, decorations, or even old costumes sometimes can be worth good money. So if you see vintage Halloween stuff, think that could be worth some money. Think about picking it up, especially if it's only $1 or $2. 85 and 86, let's talk about sports now, right? There's a ton of money to be made in sports. Let me show you real quick how to make that money. Baseball. Baseball bats, think Louisville Slugger, Easton, DeMarini. These are some good brands to look out for. And if you can get these bats for 5 or maybe even 10 bucks or less, you can be making a lot of money. Let me show you what some of these sell for. No, it's not just the wooden one, it's the metal ones too. 50, 100, let's keep it going. 100, 247 I mean. 60, 50. So again, if you see baseball bats at a yard sale, especially one that looks nice or new or wooden or anything, and you see like Louisville Slugger, Easton, anything like that, think that could be worth some good money. Now, I always see people picking up baseball gloves too. Wilson, Mizuno, Rawlings, these are some good brands to look out for here. And baseball gloves, you can usually get them for $10 or less at garage sales, sometimes even $1 or $2. And you can sell them sometimes for 100, 150, 50 bucks, easy. And again, these are small, you can ship these pretty easily. So why are you not picking them up? Now, sports, we have a lot more to go. And you're gonna want to listen because you can make a ton of money in sports. Golf clubs. Now, anything that's not driver or putter. Driver is a big one. You go like that. Putter is like putt. Anything that's not that, don't pay too much attention to. Drivers and putters are where the big money is. For drivers, there's a lot of good brands to look out for. Ping, Callaway, Cobra, TaylorMade, Cleveland. There's other ones too, but just remember with drivers, anything new or modern or advanced typically is worth more money than something older. Older stuff can be worth money too, but newer is typically better. And drivers, sometimes 200, 300 bucks. Now, putters. Putters are the same thing. Maybe not as much as drivers, but typically you want something newer. And people invest money in their putters, man. Like 50 bucks, 70 bucks, 200 bucks from a putter. Now, you know how I said to avoid anything that's not a driver or a putter? Forget what I said. If you can find a set of clubs from, let's say, Titleist, TaylorMade, Callaway, Mizuno, any of these decent brands, and what is a set? A set 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then try and get the pitching wedge and the sand wedge is P&S in there, or SW, PW. If you can get a full set for a decent price, it's going to be a lot to ship, right? But you can make some decent money. Let me show you what's going on here. Not as good as a driver or a putter, again, because you can sell one for like 100 bucks with those. But here, you can sometimes sell a set for 80 bucks, 100 bucks, sometimes crazy money, 800 bucks. I don't know what's going on there. Driver and putter is what you should focus on. But if you want to dive a little deeper, think a set, full set, not individual 5, 6, 7, but full set is where the money's at. Okay, if you find putters and drivers and sets of golf clubs, you're probably also going to find golf bags. Should you pick these up? These are kind of big and inconvenient to ship, right? But let's say you find them for 10, 5 bucks and it's a good brand, Titleist, Callaway, Cobra, maybe you should. Maybe you should because there's decent money to be made there. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you do not want personalization. That means you do not want to see someone's name on there, someone's company on there. You want the bag to be bland because someone else needs to buy it and they don't want someone else's name on there, right? If you pull up eBay, some of these sell 90, 50, 200 bucks, 91, 92, 93. Tennis rackets, right? I see these all the time. A lot of them are not worth a ton of money, but some of them are. So keep an eye out for them. Some good brands, Prince, Head, Wilson, Babolat, Yonex. Let me just show you what some of these sell for. I'm looking at the higher brand selling ones, but 170, 50, 150 bucks. And these things are light and honestly not too bad to ship. So if you see these for especially 10 bucks or less at a yard sale, just do yourself a favor, look them up real quick. There could be some good money to be made. Hockey helmets, right? Out of all the hockey equipment, this is probably the best thing to buy and resell because they can sell for 100 to 200 bucks. Now check this out. The two brands you want to look out for are CCM and Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. And these are all used, right? Bauer, 125, CCM, 130. Easy money. And if you can pick these up, find them cheap, they're not too hard to ship. That money could be yours. Now stick with me, another hockey product that you should look into is hockey skates, especially if they're in decent condition. Check this out again. Bauer, 60 bucks, 50 bucks. Some of these over 100 bucks. It's kind of crazy. So if you see hockey skates at a yard sale, Bauer, CCM, even in another brand, think that could be some money. 94, 95. Let's talk about motorcycle, motocross, this kind of stuff. Jackets, leather jackets, padded jackets, anything like that for a motorcycle or a motocross is like just smaller motorcycles, but more off-roady. And again, 50 bucks, 100 bucks. Now, another thing is gloves. Why are these worth money? I don't know. But motorcycle gloves, 30, 40, 20 bucks. If you get these for a couple bucks, they're super light, you can ship them easily, and a few days later you could have 20, 30 bucks in profit in your pocket. One brand to look out for gloves, Alpine Stars. Now, let's talk about outdoor hiking equipment, right? Because this is another category that a lot of people pass up on, and you can be the one that picks it up and makes the money. Hiking backpacks, there's two different kinds of these. One are Camelbacks, I'm sure you've seen these. They have these water pouches, you drink out of them. If they're Camelback brand, and you can get them for a couple dollars, think, I should probably pick that up because these sell 20, 30 bucks pretty easily on eBay. And the other one are these big hiking backpacks. Think about the brand when you're looking for these. Osprey, Arc'teryx, Deuter or Gregory, these are the brands you want to look out for. Let me show you what these look like just so you can implant this in your mind. So when you do see it in the future, you can think, that's money right there. Osprey, bird like that. Deuter is like a D that kind of looks like the TikTok symbol. And Arc'teryx looks like this. Okay, the last things you need to know about that you can sell for big money on eBay is climbing equipment. Now, 3 different things to look out for. One is climbing shoes. Even pre-owned shoes can be easy, 40, 50, sometimes 60, $100. Some of them, depending on the size, maybe like 10 or 20 bucks. So look these up before you buy them. Another thing that you definitely need to look out for if you see climbing equipment is any kind of carabiner or any kind of weird device like this that looks like it's used for like belaying someone. These, even used, are 50, 60 bucks all day. The brand you want to look out for is called Petzl, P-E-T-Z-L. That's just a good brand, high quality. Most of their stuff is worth 40, 50, 100 bucks, easy. And the last thing, this is for new or old, is any kind of pickaxe like this. These are typically worth 50, 100, sometimes even 200 bucks, especially if it's a new one. So keep an eye out for these. Again, any kind of climbing equipment, think money. What did I miss? Let me know down below. I want to pick it up. Everyone else wants to pick it up. Or keep it a secret.